in Altadena. It was all poppy fields. And then the Woodburys started buying up land and decided to call it Altadena. Altadena literally means above Dena, Pasadena.
It started off largely a winter playground for the wealthy, but Altadena itself was predominantly white in the early 20th century.
My grandmother moved to California from Fayetteville, Georgia. Georgia was racial. The blacks didn't have nothing. They just lived in wooden houses, no electricity, no nothing. My grandmother felt that this is not what the kind of life she wanted for her daughters. So she packed them up, put them on a train, and they came to California.
My great-grandmother and then my maternal grandfather, they were part of the Great Migration of Black families who moved because the West offered a better opportunity for life and more opportunities for Black people, and they moved to Pasadena. My great-great-grandfather was the first Black attorney in Pasadena.
My mother came with my grandparents in 1942. My grandfather was a butler, and my grandmother was a housekeeper for a retired general. My father came after World War II. He wanted to be a postal clerk because a black man in a uniform was something that you respected. All the time that I knew him, he was a letter carrier, and he was very proud of that job.
My roots are way deep. Mississippi people. I grew up in the church. That's where I heard the first music. I grew up in Detroit, which was segregated. You got Polish people over here. You got the blacks over here.
Historically, throughout the country, redlining has been an issue for Black and other ethnic minorities. And even in Pasadena, there was a lot of redlining that was happening.
Redlining was literally on a map. When they planned out cities, they would take a red marker and draw around the area that they didn't want anyone other than white people to live in.
There were a lot of homes and neighborhoods in the African American area of Pasadena, but when the construction of the 210 came along, a lot of those residences were displaced because of eminent domain and had to move out to allow for the construction of the freeway.
Pasadena was a red line city. They didn't want Black people there. So people were told to go look in Altadena.
And Altadena, particularly the west side of Altadena, which is where we live, was one of those places that was open to Black families and Black people buying property and owning it.
I remember our real estate agent was Mr. Rutland, and he was a black man, and he always looked like an undertaker to me because he had this black suit on and he had this top hat, but he was a smooth operator, and I do believe that he was central to a lot of people that either were in the area of Pasadena or adjacent areas moving into our neighborhood.
And my parents, they found the house after 2.5 years of looking. They were able to purchase it in June of 1968.
The first place we lived in as a family was called the Meadows. For me, it was Shangri-La. There were many artists here. The value in Altadena was extreme. When I moved from New York, I peeped it immediately. Hey, this is pretty cool. Everybody lives here. Well, it's all right. Everybody's getting along. Ain't nobody running around in white robes and shit and burning crosses. Yeah, it's cool. It's all right. People are getting along. They're loving each other. And raising our kids together,
I loved Altadena. We didn't lock doors. We would go, to a neighbor's house and walk in, or they would just walk in our house and we'd, hey, I'm here, or something like that.
And all the neighborhood kids, we would hang out, especially in the summer when it would stay lighter longer, just hang out like kids do, and we play kickball and jacks.
We had the old-fashioned day parade. All Altadenians, we just had our own parade. And it was right there on Lake. And it was a short parade, but everybody came out and had fun and just enjoyed, their neighbors and all of that.
Christmas Tree Lane, that's like a part of growing up in the holidays in Altadena. Wow, like kind of a Disneyland explosion of Christmas lights.
What I loved about Altadena, the silence. I mean, I work in the world of sound. So to live in a community where there's no cars honking, there's no people in the street brawling or arguing. And Altadena was the birds, crickets, a place of sanctuary for me for sure.
It bred a sense of pride and protection in me for nature and the natural landscape. The mountains felt very protective. I've lived at the base of them for my entire life, and so when I see them, I immediately feel a sense of comfort.
You could go out the backyard and see all the way out to Catalina Island. If it had rained and it had been wind, you could see the reflection of the sun hitting the water. I just felt like this has got to be the center of the universe where I'm living.
It was super still that morning, but we knew like a week or so ahead because it kept being on the news that we were going to get this wind event throughout the day. The winds picked up. Yeah, so once the fire started at the base of the tower, the winds were 70 miles an hour. And so obviously sparks and embers from a dry mountain spread it.
I went in the backyard. I saw flames. But I saw flames like in the mountains. We still didn't know anything. We didn't hear any fire engines or nothing.
It was really kind of chaotic and hectic, especially because the phone service was not working very well. It was us trying to figure it out ourselves.
And then I think people just kind of grassroots told their neighbors and tried to make sure their neighbors were out.
This is not the first time I had to leave, but I mean, of course, this is the worst, of course. But when you live in an area that's a dangerous area, you have to be mindful. Nobody's coming to save you.
But we got in the car and we immediately left, and there were it was a wall of flames behind Odyssey. And it looked like the school was on fire, and we didn't know it yet, but at that point, all of Altadena was already on fire. The homes were on fire.
People literally thought, okay, we'll evacuate, we'll be back tomorrow morning. Not that our whole town would be gone the next day.
My grandson called us and said, we no longer have a house. He said, not only do you no longer have a house, there's no more Altadena.
My brother had to tell my parents that their home of 57 years was gone.
I can't describe that to you, brother. You see everything in rubble? Yeah. Painful. The black people who bought that property up there in Altadena, that was the first time. They lost everything, just like I did.
After the fire, probably 2 weeks after the fire, it started to rain a bunch in LA and in Altadena, and I really struggled with that because it felt so unfair. Because in my mind, I was like, if this had just come, 3 weeks earlier, maybe we wouldn't have had this. Since that rain did come, the mountains are starting to regreen. One day I will still look at them and see the beauty and the love that I have for them, but it's been a bit of a struggle because I just feel in some ways betrayed.
It was a perfect storm. Nobody likes that everything that we've always known is gone, our homes and our post office and Altadena florist and all those things, but it was, a perfect storm with the winds, with the dryness, with everything. So we just have to, I try to stay positive, try to be a resource in the community, and try to encourage people, especially with keeping their land and learning ways to rebuild.
It's gone. It's not coming back. And so I could deal with that. See, because at my age, I've lived a pretty good life. I've lived my 10. That's 70 years old. That's what it says in the Bible. I'm 90 years old now. Here I am.
As devastating as the fire has been, one of the like high points of it has been that the community has come together really like closely, and I think I'm reminded a lot of what the neighborhood was when I was a little girl, because we did have like those block parties and all of that, and some of that has kind of fallen to the leeway as the neighborhood has changed, but it feels like it's really coming back at this point in time.
Because of you and your generation, I do think Altadena will be okay.
What they want to see come out of this, they're our future.
I know that when Altadena finds its way, because it's already changed once. It was not the same Altadena that it started when it was 1880s. So it became what I grew up in, and some of what I grew up in is going to be part of what it becomes, you see. So, but in any way, shape, or form that Altadena takes, it's always going to be, you know, home to me. And I think there's a lot of people that are trying to make their way around the bases to come home.
We are a super resilient town and community, and neighbors helping neighbors. Neighbors going to check on the elderly, neighbors that are displaced all over, calling and texting and staying in touch with each other and saying, is there something you need? Or, hey, I just found out about this. Let me make sure you know this information. I think we're going to be a closer-knit community than we were before, and super resilient. And we are going to be like the phoenix and rise from the ashes. We're going to be like butterflies and have a metamorphosis and change and be incredible in the future. That's what I envision, and that's my hope for Altadena.